The band Muse has begun flirting with djent. In their song Unravelling, which I released a cover of last week, you can check that out up here in the corner, they are starting to sound almost like the original Doom soundtrack. So I just want to say yes to this. We need more of this. All those regular rock bands out there, grab an 8-string and please make this more popular. So today I'm going to be doing a tutorial for this song, because I think it occupies a very cool spot in its difficulty level, where it's maybe not for brand new beginners, but it's also not necessarily so hard you have to be an intermediate or advanced player. You can kind of still be in that beginner level to play this. If you haven't heard this song yet, then make sure you go check it out. And if you don't have the tab yet, then I will link it in the description below. It will be the top link and it is free for you to download. So with that, let's get going and learn how to play this fusion djent rock song, whatever it is. Before we play anything, note that this song is in drop E tuning, so you're going to have to lower that 8th string from F sharp to an E. And then we're ready to go. So we're going to start at the pre-chorus where the guitar first enters with kind of the main riff of the song, and it sounds like this. So this riff is pretty easy if you want to just look at the tab. You can kind of figure out the notes, but I do want to give you one tip, and that is for that large horizontal position shift we have to make mid-riff. So the way the riff goes, we have an open string, 2nd fret, and open string. Then we have to move up to the 7th fret on the B string, or the 7th string, and do a hammer on from 7 to 8. Now that's a bit of a jump with the left hand, and if you're not quick enough, you can find yourself kind of lagging behind and finding inaccuracies in where you're landing because you're trying to move too fast. So the tip I have for you here is as soon as you release that 2nd fret, move your hand. So that open string is your opportunity to get up to that 7th fret before you actually have to play your note. I'm not waiting to then move after I play the note. That feels a little too rushed. In the next kind of half of this measure, we don't have that same time because we don't have that open string to move, so we kind of have to do a bit of a slide to get us to the 8th fret. So see if you can be super accurate with that slide. Get there as fast as you can. It's not one of those slides where we want to hear where we start. We don't want to hear any of those frets, we just want to hear the arrival and kind of the gesture of sliding into that note. So the 4th time that we play through this riff, we're going to cut it short on beat 4, just to create some silence and contrast for the next part. So that sounds like this. So after your hammer on to the 11th fret, that's it. You just got to stop it. I like to use both hands to mute it to make sure no strings are ringing. But as long as you cut that note off, you should be okay. In this section, the guitar kind of sounds like it's going through some heavy EQ or like it's being filtered through a radio or something. And we can achieve that without doing a bunch of pedal dancing or post-processing. And to do that, all you have to do is turn your gain knob down to about 50%, and that will reduce the input signal from your guitar, activating less gain from your amplifier. And it sounds like it's kind of like, yeah, suffocated a little bit through some sort of poor speaker. So moving to the heavy version of this riff, we now get to go full out, turn your volume knob up. Everything is the same until the 3rd time through. There's this kind of octave up version of the riff where we're playing an E and F sharp 1 octave higher. Now, I will be upfront, this is not how they play it. When watching them play it live in one of their videos, you can see the front man playing those notes down here in open position. So it's still quite a jump vertically because you have to jump across all 8 strings, but it's a little easier than trying to do this pinky jump and the octave shape and everything and getting that accurate. So choose how you'd like to do it. If you want to do it the easier way and how they play it live, just play down there. But if you want to sound just like the recording, you have to do that octave shape up on the 11th and 14th fret, moving up to the 12th and 15th. Finish off that bar of the riff. And then we have our first power chords. Now these are like super beefed up power chords because they have 5 notes in them. We have the root, 5th, root, 5th, and root. And the shape of this is a bar on the low 3 strings and then your 3rd and 4th finger on the 5th and 4th string. So you can kind of think of this as a 6th string power chord with 2 extra notes in the bass. Creates this nice thick texture. We're gonna do 10th fret. We're gonna do 5th fret. And then we're gonna hit one more and then move up to the 8th fret. And now for the most technically challenging part of the song, hitting these harmonics correctly. So the spot where we want to hit is kind of right where, well, you can see on my guitar where I have my 15th fret dot. In the notation, that's going to say fret 14.7, so we're not quite over fret 15 with our finger. Normally when we do a harmonic, we want to be right over that fret wire. But in this case, it doesn't necessarily work as well as if we pull right behind it about 0.7 of the way through the fret to get those notes. Now they're quite screechy, but that is the point. It's just to bring in the heavy chorus. So the difficult part of that is moving from our power chords and getting that note. I like to use my pinky and stretch out from where we are so I don't have to move my hand too much. On to the chorus now. We have a series of power chords again. So it's our same shape we just did, except in a bit of a different order. So we're starting on B, on the 7th fret in the first measure. Then we're moving up to D, on the 10th fret, down to A, on the 5th fret, and then down to G, on the 3rd fret. Now for the strumming pattern, it's a little hard to hear exactly what they're doing in the recording, and there's a little bit of variation as they play. They don't just stick to one pattern the whole time. But you can kind of just stick to one to get the general feel of it, and that kind of sounds like this. So down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up. There I added some extra strums in the last beat, but that's the general vibe. If you just do that, you will sound good enough for the song, and you'll get kind of the expression that they're going for. If you want to add in the little differences that they do each time, then take a look at the tab. I've done my best to find those differences, and one of them we can see in the second ending of this chorus, where instead of going at the start of the measure, we're going so 1, up, down, up, down, up, down, instead of down, down, up, down. So take a look at those. It's just to get you a little bit more accurate with what is happening in the recording, but it is not necessary to sound like the song. Following the chorus, we have the second verse, which is the synthesizer part as it was in verse 1, and then the pre-chorus, which is going to be identical to the first pre-chorus. So turn your gain knob down to about 50%, and we're back to that riff. Chorus 2 is very similar to chorus 1. We have a first ending and a second ending, and the main strum pattern is based around this. However, there are a couple variations that happen. So in the first ending, when we get to that A power chord, I think it starts with a down, up, down, up, down. Just a little bit of a difference if you want to kind of vary up what is going on. Now in the second ending, there is a difference that I highly recommend throwing in because it sounds super cool, and that is to throw a couple of palm muted chugs into the strum. So we have this on beat 2 and halfway through beat 3. And just a nice variation again. We're always looking for ways to play the same thing differently. So we're just not always repeating everything over and over and over, because that gets boring. Next up we have a little interlude before the heavy breakdown, and that just sounds like this. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. Count the rests. 2, 3. 1, 2. And it is simply a slide on string 5 from fret 4 to fret 9. You're then going to play 9, 10, 9 at the top, and that happens twice. Finally, in the last measure, we have a big slide on that low 8th string. Aim for the 21st fret as your top note to slide down from. If you miss it, not the worst thing in the world, but that is the note they hit. And now we arrive at the coolest part of the song, which is the breakdown with detuning going on. It is evident in the live performance that they are using some sort of pitch shifting, either with a pedal or some sort of pre-automated thing behind the stage, but we can see when they play it, they're hammering on the low E string, even though it sounds like a low B. When we're learning to play this, we're just going to use the low E, even though it doesn't quite sound right. You're going to have to do the pitch shifting some way on your own to get the correct note. If you don't want to bother with the pitch shifting, the note that they are dropping down to is a B, so we can simply play our 7th string open, and we're still going to get the note, it's just going to be in the wrong octave. So some syncopation to work out in this riff. We start on the 2nd 16th note of the first beat, 1 E and 2 E and And we're going to try to make those notes short with our left hand muting in between each one and palm muting it. Okay, so that's the open string part. The fretted part is going to be kind of like our original riff, up on the 8th and 11th fret, but now we're playing it on string 8, 3 to 6. So we've got that hammer on from 3 to 6 and pull off from 6 back to 3. So the whole thing together, with no pitch shifting, will sound like this. That happens 3 times, and then we get an ending to this heavy breakdown. Just some one-finger power chords. So if you've ever played drop D on the 6th string, that's what these are. These just lay your first finger across the low 3 strings. And we're starting on fret 14 to 13. 13 slide down to 10, and then 10 slide down to 9. So those power chords all together will sound like this. And that brings us to the solo. For those of you who are familiar with my channel, you may already know why I'm excited about this little easy solo, and that is because it is based on triads. So we're simply doing 4 triads followed by little melodic lines to embellish them. The first one is going to be a B minor shape. So if you know your B minor power chord, or bar chord I should say, on the 5th string, these 3 fingers, if you take off the bar, that is a B minor triad shape. Bring it up an octave by adding 12 frets to it, and look at this. And that's how the solo starts. So we have fret 16, 16, 15, and we're going to slide into the first note. Our melodic embellishment here is going to be on the 2nd string, 19, 17, 15. And we're sliding into the first notes of each of these sections and trying to add a little bit of vibrato the last note of it. Okay, the next triad is going to be this kind of C chord shape. If you have done kind of the cage system before, again, it's just a triad inversion. It's a first inversion triad. In this case, D is the root, up here, 12 frets higher. So fret 16, 14, 15. Same melodic embellishment afterward, 19, 17, 15, and then we move to an A triad, which is literally your A chord down here. The melodic embellishment changes this time though, and we're doing 17, 15, 14, and then we go to our G triad, which is the same shape that we just played, down by 2 frets. And that would be kind of like, you know, our open strings if you were to play a G chord. Embellishment to finish the solo, 17, 15, 14, and then we have a little bend from 14, just a half bend, so it's going to sound like the fret above it, and then landing on fret 12. So that last little bit will go and that's the solo. So our final chorus is going to be very similar to our other ones, with one small change in that second ending again. So in the second chorus we had that little chug on our A power chord, but this time on that chord we're going to slip into the G on the 3rd fret just for one strum. So it's really quick, it'll sound like this. So it's just a very, very brief dip into our power chord 2 frets lower. There's an extra measure as well in this chorus to note at the very end, which just has a few 8th note strums to prepare our outro. The outro is comprised of our main riff, and then we're going to do our 1-finger power chord again here, that we originally did right before the solo. But it doesn't happen the same way, because again, that would be boring. So we have to make a little change, and we're going to throw that harmonic back in. That happens on the 15th fret, or almost 15th fret, with the pinky finger. And that brings us to our final version of the heavy riff with the detuned low E string. Okay, and that just happens 4 times. You're going to finish on the last. And that's it. Mute everything, get your sound cut off. If you want to get the exact sound that they have in the recording, which I suspect they overdubbed, but you can play it, it's not too hard. Instead of playing the final 3rd fret, you're going to instead do a large pick scrape down the strings, so it'll be like this. And then make sure you figure out some way to mute the strings, because we don't want to hear anything after that. We just want to cut. You can use your arm, or just, use your hands, use your palm, whatever it takes, get the sound to stop, have a nice clean ending. So that is the song tutorial and walkthrough. I hope you enjoyed, and I'm excited that the 8-string guitar is now making some appearances in non-prog or non-gent musical situations. So here's hoping that we'll see more of that. If you want to support the channel, then feel free to check out my Patreon or my Buy Me a Coffee. I'll put those links down below. And I also teach if you're actually looking to have your money do something useful for you. I would love to help you get through whatever rut or wall you're facing in your guitar playing. So with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day wherever you are, and until the next one, happy practicing.